All right, welcome everybody to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something, well, pretty crucial for a huge portion of our listeners. We're talking about exercise and fitness, specifically as you navigate menopause.
Yeah, it's a big topic. And, we want to make sure we're doing it justice.
Absolutely. And that's why we've gone deep, haven't we? We've pulled together a whole stack of resources.
Oh, we have.
Fact sheets, articles, even a research paper.
Yeah.
So from Women's Health Concern, we've got their insights. St. Mary's Managed Clinical Service, they've got some great stuff too.
And then, bringing in some familiar voices, Davina McCall, always inspiring.
Yeah, she's got a lot to say on this.
Definitely. And Dr. Louise Newson, she's just a powerhouse in the menopause space, isn't she?
Absolutely. And we've got their thoughts from my Menopause Center, the body coach, and then, to really get into the nitty-gritty, a research article from PMC. So we're talking peer-reviewed, the real deal.
Can't forget that.
Yeah.
Got to have that solid research backing us up.
For sure. And one more thing, a report that really dives into what women value, at this stage of life, and also all those hurdles they might face when it comes to staying active.
Because it's not always easy, is it?
Not always, no. But that's what we're here for, right? To sift through all of this, find those golden nuggets of advice, and, give our listeners the tools they need to approach exercise during menopause with confidence.
Exactly. And without feeling totally overwhelmed by information. That's key, I think.
Absolutely. So, first things first, let's break down exactly what we're talking about when we say menopause. What's going on in the body?
Right. So menopause, it's a natural transition, a biological process that usually happens between, let's say, 45 and 55 years old.
And it signals the end of a woman's reproductive years, right?
Exactly. And the big change here is a decline in estrogen levels. Now, that hormone, it plays a huge role.
Yeah, it can affect so much.
It really can, and that's why you see these common symptoms. The hot flashes, those night sweats, maybe some mood swings. And, a lot of women notice changes in their weight, too.
And it's not just those immediate things. There are also potential long-term health impacts that are worth knowing about, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. That drop in estrogen, it can actually increase the risk of certain chronic conditions.
Like what, for instance?
Well, cardiovascular disease, for one. Heart health is something to really pay attention to.
That makes sense.
Osteoporosis is another one. That's where your bones become weaker, more prone to fractures.
And you mentioned metabolic syndrome earlier. That's it's not a single disease, right?
Right. It's more like a cluster of conditions. Things like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, those sorts of things. And together, they increase the risk of, more serious problems like heart disease, stroke, even type 2 diabetes.
So menopause, it's definitely not just a blip on the radar. It's a significant shift.
Our sources, they actually use that phrase, significant transitional phase. I think that sums it up well.
It does. And one thing that really stood out to me reading through that report on women's experiences was how much menopause is tied to, a woman's sense of self. It's not just physical, is it?
Definitely not. It really gets to the core of how women feel about themselves, their bodies, their place in the world.
Exactly.
The report talked about feelings of loss of control, feeling like things are changing and you're not quite in the driver's seat anymore. Loss of identity, too. Who am I now that I'm not in this reproductive phase anymore?
It can shake things up a bit, can't it?
It can. And there's often this feeling of loss around youthfulness, femininity, fertility. It can be a lot to process.
Especially when you throw in the health concerns, too. That sense of mortality, the vulnerability, it's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. And so, for a lot of women, those feelings can make it even harder to get motivated about exercise. You're already dealing with all this internal stuff.
So starting a new routine, or even sticking to an old one, it can feel like a mountain to climb.
Exactly. But, it's not all doom and gloom. There was this other side to the report that I found really interesting, this idea of reappraisal.
Reappraisal, huh? What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's like taking a step back and looking at this phase of life with fresh eyes. It can actually be a time of, more freedom for some women.
In what ways?
Well, no more periods, for one. That's a big change for many women, and often a welcome one. More time for themselves, maybe, and that can lead to some positive shifts in how they prioritize their health.
So it's like a reset button almost.
Yeah, in a way. A chance to focus on what really matters. And the report, it dug into those core values that are so important to women during this time.
What were some of those?
Well, feeling good, that was a big one. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Feeling healthy, enjoying life, having that
Ah,
energy.
yeah.
Nurturing relationships was important too. Friends, family, those connections matter. And then, looking good, having fun, achieving goals, learning new things. It's really about finding that sense of fulfillment.
And those values, they can really shape how a woman approaches exercise, right?
Definitely. It's not just about fitting into a certain size or looking a certain way. It's about finding something that makes you feel good, that aligns with what you value in this stage of your life.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We've talked about what menopause is, what it means for the body, how it can affect women emotionally. But now let's really dig into the heart of this deep dive. Why is exercise so crucial during menopause?
Well, our sources are pretty unanimous on this one. Exercise, it's not just a good idea, it's essential.
Strong words.
And for good reason. It's about protecting your physical health, sure, but it's also about your mental and emotional well-being. And it's never too late to start reaping those benefits.
That's reassuring to hear because I think some people might feel like, oh, if I haven't been exercising all along, what's the point now?
That's a common misconception. It's never too late to start making positive changes. And, when we talk about the benefits, it goes way beyond just weight management.
Yeah, I think that's often the first thing people think of, but it's so much bigger than that, isn't it?
It really is. Exercise, it can help you manage stress, reduce anxiety. It can even play a role in keeping your mind sharp as you age.
So like memory, focus, those sorts of things.
Exactly. And then there's sleep. A lot of women struggle with sleep during menopause.
Oh, the insomnia, it's no joke.
Exercise can actually improve your sleep quality.
That's huge.
It is. And then, little things, but they make a difference. Digestion, joint pain, muscle aches. Exercise can ease all of those.
So it's like a multivitamin for your whole body almost.
In a way, yeah. And when we look specifically at menopause, there are some really key benefits that are worth highlighting.
Okay, let's dive into those.
So first up, weight management. We touched on that. But it's important because during menopause, the way your body stores fat, it shifts.
Oh, right. I've heard about this. Like it tends to go more around the belly area.
Yeah, you tend to get more of that visceral fat, the kind that sits around your organs.
And that's not good, right?
Not ideal, no.
Yeah.
It increases the risk of certain health problems. So exercise, it helps you control your weight, but it also helps with that shift in fat distribution.
So it's not just about the number on the scale.
Exactly. It's about where that weight is and how it's affecting your overall health. And then there's bone health. This is a big one.
Yeah, osteoporosis, it's a serious concern for a lot of women going through menopause.
It is. And that drop in estrogen, it speeds up the process of bone loss. So what can you do? Weight-bearing exercise.
What exactly does that mean?
It's any activity where your bones are supporting your weight. Things like walking, dancing, climbing stairs.
So everyday movements can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. And then there's strength training. That's super important too. It helps build and maintain bone density.
I'm sensing a theme here. Strong bones, strong body.
Right on. And then we can't forget about heart health. That decrease in estrogen, it can actually make you more vulnerable to heart disease.
So what's the exercise prescription for that?
Well, aerobic exercise, for one. Things like brisk walking, swimming, cycling, dancing.
So getting that heart rate up.
Exactly. It helps regulate blood pressure, may even lower your resting heart rate. All good things.
Definitely.
And then there's this other aspect that people don't always think about, muscle mass. You naturally lose muscle as you age.
I've heard about that. Is it related to menopause too?
Yep, that drop in estrogen, it plays a role. And here's why it matters. Muscle, it burns more calories than fat. So when you lose muscle, your metabolism slows down.
Ah, so it becomes harder to manage your weight.
Exactly. But exercise, especially strength training, it helps you hold on to that precious muscle mass. And a healthy metabolism, well, that impacts everything. Your energy levels, how you feel overall.
And I've also read that exercise might actually help with some of the more immediate symptoms of menopause, like those hot flashes that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, there's some research suggestive a link there, but it's not totally clear-cut. Some studies have shown that exercise might reduce the frequency or intensity of hot flashes.
So maybe not a cure-all, but potentially helpful.
Exactly. And even if it doesn't directly zap those hot flashes away, a lot of women who exercise regularly, they just report feeling more resilient overall.
Like they can handle whatever menopause throws their way.
Yeah, they feel more in control, more able to cope. And let's not forget, the mood-boosting power of exercise, it's real.
Endorphins, right? Those feel-good chemicals.
Those are the ones. And during menopause, when mood swings can be an issue,
Yeah.
that little boost can make a world of difference. It can reduce stress, increase energy. It's like hitting the reset button on your mood.
So we've got weight management, bone health, heart health, mood boost, help with those pesky symptoms.
Yeah.
It's starting to sound like exercise is the magic bullet for menopause.
Well, I wouldn't say magic bullet, but it's definitely a powerful tool. And Dr. Newson, she really emphasizes this. She calls exercise a core component of a holistic approach to menopause. And I think that's spot on.
It's not just one piece of the puzzle, it's a foundational piece.
Exactly. And to really understand how to exercise effectively during menopause, we need to take a look at those physiological changes that are happening in the body.
Okay, so back to the science. What's going on under the hood, so to speak?
Well, as we've talked about, the hormonal shifts are the big driver here. That decrease in estrogen and progesterone, it has a ripple effect throughout the body. Muscles, fat distribution, bone density, all of it gets impacted.
So it's not just about feeling different. There are actual physical changes happening.
Right. You might notice, for example, that you're losing muscle mass more easily.
Yeah, I've heard that's common.
It is. And your bone density, that naturally declines with age, but menopause can accelerate that process.
And that's why weight-bearing exercise and strength training are so important.
Exactly. And then there are the changes in your cardiovascular system, your risk of heart disease. It goes up after menopause.
So that's another reason why aerobic exercise is key.
For sure. And then let's talk about that. Let's talk about weight gain.
The elephant in the room.
Right. It's a common experience during menopause, and those metabolic changes, they play a role. You might find it harder to lose weight, easier to gain it.
Especially around the belly.
Yeah, that abdominal fat, it can be stubborn. And it's not just about aesthetics, it's about those health risks we talked about earlier.
Right. Heart disease, all that.
Exactly. And then, on top of all the physical changes, there are the psychological and sleep-related changes, mood swings, difficulty sleeping. Those can really sap your motivation and energy.
It's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
You're dealing with all these changes in your body, and then your mind is playing tricks on you too.
And that report we mentioned, it highlighted some specific barriers that inactive women often face during menopause. Things like, just feeling too tired to exercise.
That makes sense. If you're not sleeping well, your energy levels are going to be low.
Right. And then there's the lack of confidence. Some women, they just don't feel like they can do it.
Like they're not fit enough or strong enough or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a lack of knowledge. They're not sure what kind of exercise is right for them or how to do it safely.
So feeling a bit lost and overwhelmed.
And then there's the stigma, too. Menopause, it's not always talked about openly.
So there can be this sense of shame or embarrassment or just feeling like, oh, this is something I'm supposed to go through quietly.
Exactly. And then, lack of social support, not having people to exercise with or cheer you on, and then just plain old lack of motivation. It all adds up.
It sounds like there are a lot of hurdles to overcome. So where do we even begin? What's the best approach to exercise during menopause?
Well, the good news is there's no one-size-fits-all prescription. It's about finding what works for you. But the general consensus across our sources is that a well-rounded routine is key.
What does that look like?
So ideally, you want to incorporate strength training, aerobic exercise, balance exercises, and flexibility.
A bit of everything then.
Exactly. Each type of exercise has its own unique benefits, and together they create this symphony of health, you could say.
Okay, let's break it down, starting with strength training.
Yeah.
I think this is one that a lot of women might shy away from, but it sounds like it's super important.
It really is. Strength training, it's not just about bulking up, it's about building and maintaining muscle mass, which, as we've talked about, is crucial for so many reasons.
Bone health, metabolism, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be intimidating. You can start with simple bodyweight exercises, things you can do at home.
Like what, for example?
Well, squats are great. They work your legs, your core, your glutes.
I could do those.
You got it. And then push-ups, you can modify them if you need to. Start on your knees.
Okay, yeah, those are doable.
And then, abdominal curls, bicep curls, things like that. You can add weights as you get stronger.
And speaking of weights, Davina McCall, she's all about strength training these days, isn't she?
Yeah, she's found that it really works for her. And Joe Wicks, he's got a great workout that we looked at focused on strength training, but it's all low impact, so it's gentle on the joints.
That's good to know. Then he uses dumbbells, right?
Right, dumbbells are a great tool. And he really emphasizes this principle of progressive overload.
What does that mean?
It means gradually increasing the challenge over time. So maybe you start with lighter weights, and as you get stronger, you bump them up.
So it's always pushing your body a little bit.
Exactly.
Well,
And the research, it actually lists specific strength training exercises that are particularly good for bone density.
okay, hit me with those.
So squats are on the list, of course, and then shoulder presses, lat pull downs, leg presses, seated rows, back extensions. Those are all good ones to incorporate.
And how often should you be doing strength training?
Most recommendations say to aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to aerobic exercise. This is the one that most people probably think of when they think of working out.
Yeah, it's the classic cardio. And for good reason. It's great for your heart, it helps with weight management, it boosts mood, it gives you energy.
So many wins.
And the best part is, it can be as simple as going for a walk.
Walking? Really?
Yeah, walking is fantastic. It's weight-bearing, so good for your bones. It gets your heart pumping. It's accessible for almost everyone. Davina McCall, she's a huge fan of walking.
She's always out there with her dog, isn't she?
Yep, and it doesn't have to be a marathon. Just get out there, walk with purpose, and try to gradually increase your steps each day.
So it's about building those healthy habits.
Exactly. And if you want to bump up the intensity, you can add in some intervals of faster walking or even jogging if that feels good.
Okay, so walking is a good foundation. What about other types of aerobic exercise?
Well, cycling is great. Swimming, dancing, using cardio machines at the gym, things like that. And if you like group classes, there are tons of options. Zumba, spin, all sorts of stuff.
So many choices.
The key is to find what you enjoy. And the general guideline is to aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week.
Okay, 150 minutes. I can work with that.
Or, if you prefer more vigorous exercise, 75 minutes per week.
So shorter workouts, but more intense.
Right. And then, we can't forget about balance and flexibility. Those are important too, especially as we age.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that my balance isn't what it used to be.
It happens to the best of us. But the good news is there are exercises that can help.
Like what?
Well, yoga is fantastic. It improves balance, strength, flexibility, all in one.
And Davina McCall swears by it.
She does. And Pilates is another good one. It's really focused on core strength and stability.
So that's good for posture too, right?
Exactly. And then there's Tai Chi. It's a more gentle practice, but it's amazing for balance and coordination.
And it's very calming, I've heard.
It is. And then, any type of stretching is beneficial.
Just to keep those muscles loose and limber.
Exactly. And restorative exercises, things like gentle yoga or lying down stretches, those can be really helpful for helping your body recover after a workout.
Okay, so we've got strength training, aerobic exercise, balance, and flexibility. What about women who might be dealing with joint pain or injuries? Are there any modifications they can make?
Absolutely. Low-impact exercise is a great option in those cases.
What are some examples?
Well, swimming is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's super gentle on the joints.
And Davina McCall, she's even into wild swimming these days, isn't she?
She is. And Pilates, that's another good low-impact choice. And remember that strength training routine we talked about from Joe Wicks? That's designed to be low-impact too.
So you can still build strength without putting a lot of stress on your joints.
Exactly. And there are other instructors who specialize in low-impact workouts. Lucy Wyndham-Reed, for example, she's got some great ones.
So there's really something for everyone.
There really is. And one more thing we need to talk about, pelvic floor health.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially during menopause.
It is. Those pelvic floor muscles, they can weaken with age and hormonal changes.
And that can lead to, well, some uncomfortable issues.
Right, things like incontinence, leaking urine when you cough or sneeze, those sorts of things.
Not fun.
Not at all. But the good news is, pelvic floor exercises, they can really help.
And are there specific exercises that you recommend?
Well, the best thing to do is to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. They can assess your individual needs and give you a personalized program.
So it's about getting expert guidance.
Exactly. And then, there's this other type of exercise that's become really popular in recent years, HIIT, high-intensity interval training.
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's those short bursts of intense exercise, right?
That's it. And it can be really effective for improving fitness and burning calories.
But is it safe for women going through menopause?
It can be, but it's important to be cautious. Davina McCall, she used to be a big fan of HIT, but she's actually moved away from it now.
Really? Why is that?
She's found that she prefers gentler forms of exercise these days, and I think that makes sense. As you go through menopause, your body might need a bit more recovery time.
So HIIT, maybe not for everyone.
Exactly. If you do decide to try it, it's best to start slowly and maybe work with a trainer to make sure you're doing it safely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the different types of exercise that are beneficial during menopause. But how much should you be doing? What are the actual guidelines?
Well, Davina McCall, she suggests aiming for at least 3 workouts per week.
Okay, 3 workouts. That sounds manageable.
And then, the UK guidelines, they recommend aiming for around 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity most days of the week.
So that could be walking, cycling, swimming, any of those things we talked about.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you want to incorporate strength training at least twice a week.
So that's 5 days of exercise total.
Ideally, yes. But remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about finding what you can realistically fit into your life and sticking with it.
But that's where finding something you enjoy comes in, right?
Absolutely. All of our sources emphasize how important it is to find activities that you genuinely look forward to doing.
Otherwise, it's just going to feel like a chore.
Exactly. Experiment, try different things, and see what clicks.
And it's okay to start small, right?
Absolutely. You don't have to go from 0 to 60 overnight. Start with something manageable and gradually increase the duration and intensity as you get fitter.
And you mentioned the talk test earlier. Can you remind us what that is?
Yeah, it's a simple way to gauge your exercise intensity. If you can hold a conversation while you're working out but you can't easily sing, then you're probably in that moderate intensity zone.
Okay, that's easy to remember.
And don't forget the basics, warming up before each workout and cooling down afterwards.
Super important.
It really is. Davina McCall, she's a big advocate for planning your workouts into your week, just like you would schedule any other important appointment.
So treat it with the same level of commitment.
Exactly. And she also suggests trying to exercise in the morning.
I've heard that can be a good strategy.
It can. It sets you up for a good day and is less likely to get derailed by other commitments.
And what about making exercise a social activity?
That's a great idea. Find a workout buddy, join a group class, anything that adds a bit of fun and accountability.
And set realistic goals.
Right, for sure. Don't try to do too much too soon. And listen to your body. If you're feeling pain, stop and rest.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. But before we wrap up, are there any specific precautions or considerations that women going through menopause should be aware of?
Definitely. First and foremost, talk to your doctor before starting any new exercise program, especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
That's always a good idea.
And women with osteoporosis, they need to be particularly careful.
What should they avoid?
High-impact exercises, things like running or jumping, those can put too much stress on the bones. And activities with a high risk of falling, those are best avoided too.
So it's about choosing activities that are safe and sustainable.
Exactly. And be mindful of your cardiovascular health. If you have any heart issues, talk to your doctor about what types of exercise are appropriate for you.
And stay hydrated, of course.
Super important. And make sure you're eating a healthy diet.
Yeah, all those nutrients are crucial for bone health, muscle recovery, all of it.
Right. And perhaps most importantly, listen to your body. Don't push through pain. If something feels wrong, stop and rest.
It's about respecting your body's limits.
Exactly. Menopause, it's a time of change, and your body might be responding differently to exercise than it used to.
So it's about tuning in and paying attention.
And adjusting your routine as needed. And if you're ever unsure, don't hesitate to reach out to a healthcare professional for guidance.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits of exercise, the different types, the guidelines, the precautions. But what about the mental side of things? How do you stay motivated when you're dealing with all the ups and downs of menopause?
It's a good question, and it's one that a lot of women struggle with, but there are definitely things you can do. One of the most powerful tools is to really tap into your why.
Your why. What does that mean?
It means getting clear on why exercise is important to you. What are your personal goals? What are you hoping to achieve?
So it's not just about, oh, I should exercise because it's good for me. It's about finding a deeper motivation.
Exactly. Maybe it's about managing your menopause symptoms. Maybe it's about feeling more energetic and confident. Maybe it's about improving your overall health and well-being.
Whatever it is, it needs to be something that resonates with you personally.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed by the idea of exercising, break it down into smaller steps. Don't try to do everything at once.
So instead of, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, maybe it's, I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk 3 times this week.
Exactly. Small, achievable goals. Those are the building blocks of success. And remember, even a little bit of exercise is better than none.
So don't beat yourself up if you can't always meet your goals.
And celebrate the wins no matter how small. Each step you take, it's a victory.
It's all about progress, not perfection.
And finding ways to make exercise enjoyable. If you're dreading your workouts, you're less likely to stick with them.
So maybe it's putting on some music you love and dancing around your living room.
Or going for a walk with a friend. Or trying a new class that sounds fun.
And Davina McCall, she talks about having an excuse buddy.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's someone who will hold you accountable and encourage you to stick to your goals.
So it's like having a cheerleader in your corner.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to adjust your routine as needed. Some days you might feel like doing a high-energy workout. Other days you might just need a gentle stretch.
It's about listening to your body and honoring what it needs.
And remembering that menopause, it's not a pause button on life. It's a transition, yes. But it can also be a time of renewal, of rediscovering yourself.
And exercise can be a powerful part of that journey.
Absolutely. It's about reclaiming your health, your strength, your vitality.
So to sum it all up, exercise during menopause, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity.
And it's not about fitting into some societal ideal. It's about feeling good in your own skin, about having the energy and strength to live life to the fullest.
And on that note, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. What's one small, manageable step you can take today to incorporate more movement into your life? It could be as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator or going for a short walk during your lunch break. Every little bit counts. And remember, it's never too late to start. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.